second anyhow.
Okay.
And then I'll let you know what I'm going to let everybody else know, which is Ray's not going to be here, and I'll explain why, kind of thing. But anyhow,
Cool.
Mr. Draper, how have you been, sir?
Man, I've been good, busy as ever, but good. Good to see you.
Keeping busy. We got too many things going on here.
Always, always busy.
So, hey there, hi there, ho there out in spray wash land. Want to let everybody know as we get started here that Ray will not be joining us this evening. One of his past employees was in an accident this evening, and a pretty nasty accident at that. So, he's kind of dealing with some stuff there, and you know, we'll see him next week, kind of a thing. So. But today we're going to talk with Mr. Michael Draper. Everybody knows pretty much. I think anybody that doesn't know you is just like, I think they're lost or they haven't paid attention to safety much, right? So we like to call him Mr. Safety just because he does all of the OSHA trainings and safety trainings, and he does it for the PWNA. He's got some classes in the spray wash, all those kinds of things. So you don't really need any announcement, but tell us a little bit about yourself and let's go, Michael.
Yeah, no problem. Just I own Expert Safety Services. We're a safety consulting company, and we get involved with everything from load testing, fall protection anchors for high rise type window cleaners, over the edge type stuff. We get involved in trainings. We get involved in equipment, and I serve as a safety and compliance director for the PWNA as well. And we try to help contractors that need it, that have employees that recognize that they have some compliantary standards they've got to follow. And that's basically me. What you see is what you get.
So I'm not sure that you're aware, and I hadn't thought about this till just now, but over the past couple of weeks, I think there's been 2 high-rise window cleaners that have fallen to their deaths, and it makes me wonder why those happened to begin with. Just kind of do you have any familiarity with that? And, what could have probably prevented that sort of, because I have to assume that they didn't have a second line to protect them or there was something wrong with that line. So what are your thoughts on that, or what do you know?
I don't want to comment too much about it, but no, I don't mind. I'll offer commentary, but I don't want to comment specifically on those 2 cases. But generally what happens, what we see a lot in the field is that they do have 2 lines. However, those 2 lines are connected to a single attachment. And so what we mean by that, and oftentimes it's not an anchorage, it's because there's no anchorage or the anchors are too far apart. They build some sort of sling line. So they connect 2 anchors like this. And that could be concrete pillars, or it could be 2 anchors on the building. But then what they do is when they bring that sling line around, they attach both the main line and the secondary line to that single connection point. And the problem is that the reason they're doing that is because it's not probably an approved anchor. And so it rubs. We've seen where concrete has cut that sling.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not good. It's actually, rigging that should not even be approved.
Right.
They shouldn't be going over on it in a situation like that. And then the other thing I'll state is we see very few accidents when a high-rise window cleaner, it has a primary line and a secondary line, and both of those are backed up to independent anchors.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we don't see, right?
Right.
So when we see these deaths, it's a misfortunate thing. Again, these 2, I don't want to comment directly on these 2, but that's generally what we see.
One of the things I remember from a long time ago, we would use tugger wires for different things, right? And tugger wire it's a cable, and doesn't necessarily matter the thickness of the cable. I mean, obviously it does. But the cable itself, which if you get it against a sharp point, those things will just snap. And you don't think about that with an actual, wire rope cable. And now this, you're not dealing with that sort of a rope, but nonetheless, on that concrete rubbing back and forth, if that's what it's doing, or any sharp surface, any just abrupt edge, that's enough to sever a line. And then I thought about it too, where, you sit there and the heavier the person is, even if they have that second backup line, the strength of that backup line has to be there to take that impact of their, if it's just a little bit loose, that fall, if they fall, is there like this wasn't the road I was going down, by the way. But is there like a set number, I guess, of slack that should be there to prevent, because otherwise the larger the fall you get to a point where you just kind of hit real hard and bounce. So is there a slack that they should have in that rope?
Well, if you're talking about the tie back rope, if they're tying a sling, whenever you're connecting two different points, we sometimes we'll call it deviation rigging, but you got 2 points. You should always try to bring that. We train guys for the most part, especially in the authorized certification, to where that deviation doesn't exceed 90 degrees. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because of the loading that gets associated with those anchors going back. When you create a Y rig, you load those anchors simultaneously, and the wider that angle is, the more pressure you're putting on each one of those anchors. Mm-hmm. And so you always want a little bit of a V, and that V then kind of distributes the weight back to both anchors evenly more. And so that's whenever you see the accidents and I see the main line and the safety line both on the ground, that tells me right there that there wasn't an independent anchorage. Mm-hmm. You should have the main on one anchor, the safety on another anchor. Mm-hmm. But in some of these things, they're not anchors, so they're not even supposed to be going off of them by OSHA standards. And then, unfortunately, they tie stuff together, and then if something gives, it's tragic. It's horrible. Mm-hmm.
So in the sticking kind of with the pressure wash industry, what are you seeing is the biggest violation, or the biggest thing people aren't paying enough attention to on the safety side?
Yeah, I think there's a bad accident also in the pressure washing industry here within the last few weeks too, with a mobile area work platform boom lift, and got too close to electrical line, and it's a sad outcome too. It didn't result in death, but it's my understanding is that the gentleman got hurt really bad. Mm-hmm. And so I think one of the things I continue to see is the lack of respect, I guess, for oneself or their employees or whatever when it comes to respirator usage. And our industry, it's just we're dealing with sodium hypochlorite, and that stuff requires especially you guys that are roof cleaning. That's gassing off, and you're taking heat off of those shingles, and that gas that's coming up. The long-term effects of that is horrid. It just is absolutely horrid. So we see that a lot. People not wearing their respirators, and then also fall protection. It remains this. National statistics were just released. Fall protection remains the leading cause of injury and death in industries across the board. Doesn't matter, construction industry or general industry. And we see it all the time. Facebook posts, guys are up on roofs. There's just the natural assumption that's not going to happen to me, or
right.
And I try to stress all the time in classes, no one leaves their house that morning thinking I'm not coming home. Those two guys that we talked about that died, they didn't leave their house that morning thinking they weren't coming home.
Right.
They just get complacent. They think it's not going to happen. They think they've done this before. And then tragedy sets in.
I think I probably told you the story, but maybe I didn't. But we did a job for Shell, and in that whole process, going back and forth a little bit about safety stuff and all that, the way it boiled down to is we weren't allowed to do the job, so we were hired as consultants with our equipment and let their guys do the job. And I said, okay. And, they wanted to know the requirements and all that. And I said, well, they're going to have to wear, gloves and eye protection and respirators and, that kind of stuff. And they came back and they said, well, you're spraying bleach. Respirators are not needed for that. And I'm like, yes, they are. And they came back and they're like, no, they're not. And we actually had a little bit of a back and forth. And the end of it, they said, well, okay, so let's just get this straight. We are the Shell Corporation, right? We deal with chemicals every day, and we're telling you that it's not a problem. And so I responded back and I said, so I'm just telling you that you're hiring me as the consultant and using my equipment, and it's not showing up if they're not wearing their respirators. That's just all there is to it. And so it was kind of funny because that's how that story went. Well, by the time it actually got to doing the job, the guy he didn't know what he was talking about. And, when we got around to doing the job, he's like, I'm really glad that you pushed us on that, because I honestly, I just thought it's bleach. It's no big deal. But after learning about it, I found out that it's a really big deal. I mean, the concentrations and the fumes he goes, even standing there, I was catching the whiffs of that stuff. And, I went home, I smelled like bleach, and he wasn't spraying. He was way back over, kind of thing. So it's surprising what they don't think of or know. And, you got to sometimes hold your ground, because that was a big job for us.
Yeah. And the thing is with respiratory safety is, and it's admittedly, it's a little bit complicated, because you have to, the problem is that no one in the industry, we're not measuring air quality, right? Mm-hmm. So whenever you're dealing with respirator safety, you're dealing with the chemical itself, and then the permissible exposure limit times and then airflow. So you're dealing with all these things, and no one in the field is a mathematician and a scientist trying to figure all this stuff out. So the reality is that there are some times where it may not be needed. Mm-hmm. You're doing a house wash and you've got plenty of airflow and you've got a less concentration of bleach. Maybe not as heavy a respirator. Maybe you're wearing a nuisance type mask or what have you. But when you get up on the roofs, again, you're not monitoring. So now you add heat, you add humidity, you add the gassing off and all this stuff.
Exactly.
Now you can get yourself in trouble. So it's one of those things. Let's just take the high road, because since you're not monitoring, you don't know. You couldn't tell me if I walked on your site, what's the permissible exposure limit of that, and what's the quality of the air and all this stuff. What's the airflow? Just go to the high road. Just default to the highest mitigation that you can in that hazard.
Mm-hmm. So Ryan K is asking, hopefully drones become more able to clean very high windows and we can get away from hanging off buildings, which is very true. But that doesn't mean that there's no other safety features that need to be put in place for drones, because I think there's a good bit of safety in every aspect that you do. What are your thoughts on drones and safety?
Yeah, so I like them. I think that, however, I will just say with the window, I've been around the window cleaning industry a long time. I was a window cleaner. I had 30 years as a contractor myself, owning a company. And years ago, we played with some of the touchless stuff and the automated brushes and things like that. And the one thing that I found through the years is that, especially on commercial glass, you get away with some of the stuff on residential, but on commercial glass, it's have heavy buildup, downtown areas, higher buildings. Mm-hmm. It's difficult to get windows clean without agitation. Mm-hmm. And so of the drones that I've seen so far, they're good at spraying water. And I think they definitely serve a great purpose for chemical application, soft washing, even maybe some pressure washing. I'm a little on the skeptical side on the windows, just because of the agitation. And I want it to work. But I've been around the block on these windows, and I know that there's just agitation is key.
Yep. And I'm right there with you. I mean, that's part of all of this stuff that I'm doing right now, is to help see, is this stuff real? Is it hype? How is that going to work out? And how, because I think on a lot of it, traditional window cleaning is still going to be needed, but then you might be able to follow up with drone cleaning after that and keep the cost down. So they still have the initial clean, and then, use the drones after that. They're not going to be an end all be all. So ladder inspections, what do you think about ladder inspections?
Yep, absolutely. We had this is the blanket statement on this. I mean, all fall protection, including ladders, should be inspected. They should be inspected before use. And that's not every single job. If you did 5 jobs in a day, it's just before the day starts, we should look at our equipment. And then all fall protection by the manufacturer standards is going to say it needs to be inspected by a qualified person at some interval, and it'll depend on the manufacturer. Sometimes it's annually, sometimes it's every two times a year. But the other thing for you guys that are operating, and you have guys out there, I say it all the time, if it's not documented, it's not done. Mm-hmm. And so, a high-rise company or whatever, I should be able to walk into any company that's harnessing guys or whatever, and I say, let me see your logbooks. You should be able to produce them. You should be able to produce your harness inspections, your lanyard inspections, and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes guys, they think they don't need to do that, or they think that, well, I was safe yesterday. Nothing happened yesterday. I just used it. But, even most of the manufacturers, even the good ones, I mean, they have recalls at times. They have things that go wrong. They have components they put out there that maybe don't last as long as they thought they did. So it just makes good sense. If we're going to get at height, let's just take a couple minutes, look things over, and make sure that it's going to do its job for us, especially when we're at height.
So before I get into this next one, I want to go, on the ladder side of it. I had bought a brand new ladder. This was the first time it was out on the job. It was either, I can't remember if it was a 6 foot or an 8 foot extension, or not extension ladder, but step ladder. And guy comes up and he says that the ladder fell over, he fell, all that kind of stuff. And he brought the ladder back, and the arms of it were slightly bent out, and where the little rivets are going into the fiberglass was just cracked. It's just a little bit cracked, something that normally you wouldn't necessarily even care about. Brand spanking new ladder, first time on the job. And right there in front of all the guys, I crushed it. And he's like, wait, what? I mean, I'd have taken that home. I'm like, no, I mean, I can't do that, and I can't allow that, kind of a thing. I was also kind of upset that he did that, because I know he put it on an uneven surface, was trying to do something he shouldn't have been doing, all that kind of stuff. But you have to look at all those, and it's no longer a serviceable ladder. And as much as I hated to just brand new ladder, just throwing money out, I had to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things. And, we've done it a lot with rope as well. Rope's $120 a foot right now or more, and then shipping on top of it. And so, you get to a rope, gets snagged, or it gets, shock loaded or whatever. It stinks, because that's a lot of money. It could be $600-700, but it's got to go. It's not worth the risk of it all.
So Palm Tree says people only think about acute problems. It's the chronic effects that are often overlooked. And that's referring back to the bleach thing. So my rule with house washing even was, if I pull up on the job site, you're not wearing your respirator and you're washing the house, you're fired. It's that simple. And because for me, it's not the house wash that's going to do it. It's the long-term exposure to house washing every single day that's frying out your lungs. And the arguments that we get into online here sometimes are about, I don't think it's that bad. And I'm like, you go home and your wife tells you stink, you smell like bleach, but you don't smell it. Why? Because it's fried,
Right. You don't smell your own cologne either.
Exactly.
So you can spray yourself down, and you walk through the house and somebody else will say, man, where are you going?
Dang, that's strong.
You don't smell anything. And so that's the effects of bleach as well. And, I have a little funny saying. I go and do a lot of safety inspections, and I get pushback and argument with guys. Well, this and this and this, da, da, da. Can't you just overlook this? And, my saying, I love this safety saying. It's, for me to overlook a safety violation is for me to devalue your life. And I'm just not going to do it. Mm-hmm. So
that's kind of hard to argue against.
It is. I care about you. I know safety is sometimes not popular, but I genuinely care about people. I care about our industry. Mm-hmm. And I don't like, getting into these accident investigations and, setting up GoFundMes and all this stuff that comes with it. And the impact of some of these things are just, they're devastating. There's just no doubt about it.
So I'm not really sure who this is, but it says, hanging with Draper, utmost respect for this man. He's keeping us alive and does not skip on safety in any form or fashion. And he's been doing it for us for quite some time. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background that most guys don't see. I am so certain of that. And, props to you and hats off to you and all that kind of stuff. Because I think actually it's one of them. It is the most important aspect of our industry and of our jobs and our careers, that if we don't come home at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money we made. It just doesn't.
Right. No, I think that's Daniel Howerton. So,
maybe.
Yeah. That hashtag.
The hashtag. Yeah, with Daniel probably.
I think too is just, we see a lot. I'm going to call out that picture behind you a little bit, Dougie.
This one right here.
Yeah. Cause, what we see a lot too, it's just a good teaching example, but what we see a lot is guys, they go out to Home Depot, they buy their little bucket of safety and a belt or what, in a bucket, and they don't really have a proper understanding of, fall factors, how the equipment works and such. And that picture behind you, I know that's Ray, but that's all right. I'm going to beat him up here a little bit. But, when you're back attached like that, the dorsal attachment and the rope grab is below you, if he took a fall in that, he would be susceptible to about, he's wearing a 6-foot lanyard and it's below him. So when you calculate fall factor, it's where the rope grab would engage. So in this place, it would engage at 6 feet. He would fall 6 feet, it would engage, and then he would go on around.
Mm-hmm.
So he's suscepting himself right there to a 12-foot fall factor.
Mm-hmm.
And why I bring it up is because one, OSHA they only allow for a 6-foot fall maximum on the dorsal. And the other thing is that looks like, I know that picture, he's higher in the air than this, but I just want to talk to residential guys for a minute. You take a 12-foot fall factor on a residential roof, you're hitting the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you're hitting the ground because the rope's going to stretch, your harness is going to stretch, and you just took 12 feet out of the scenario. So you have to think about these things. You have to think about not only am I wearing my harness and lanyard, but am I wearing it right? And am I correctly using it so that it's going to save me if I need it?
Well, it's actually why, if you remember back when we first started on this, I said, what about one that's hanging below you? You got to remember that everything is backwards on my thing. So it's this side. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of why I brought it up, because like it's sitting there hanging below you, and that's not a good thing. There really shouldn't be much slack at all, because most of you're pulling it down as you're going along anyhow. Yeah. So you just keep it, it's fairly taut. And then if it is, then it just becomes that 6 foot as it comes out. So,
right. Yep.
Mr. Rivas is in the house. I always know it's David because he's got the rhino on there.
Yeah.
I just bought a monthly subscription to Mike's Expert Safety Advocate program. It is what everyone needs. Tell us a little bit about your advocate program.
Yeah, the reason that we created the advocate program was I started off going around doing all these trainings. I think I probably met you out on the circuit somewhere, several years ago. And one of the things that just concerned me, because again, I genuinely care about people. And we were doing these trainings, and I would say things like, hey, you need to have a JHA. Hey, you need to do this. Hey, you need to have employee training. And, people would be like, and you could tell by the glass-eyed, look over that you were getting, they didn't understand it. And they didn't have the tools necessary to do what you were asking them to do in training. And it was really, it was bothersome to me. It really was. So the Safety Advocate Program, what we did is we put a comprehensive safety program together that's basically, it's on autoplay. So it's really a system. There's 6 pillars that we build it around: a safety manual, employee training, job hazard analysis, weekly safety meetings, and pre-work inspections, and then job site inspections or following up to make sure your safety program's in place. And so the way it works is an owner has a dashboard, and he can assign different things to the employees, and things get done, and it documents it in there. And what I will say is, I'm not trying to be cocky, but we've been in enough OSHA inquiries and things that we know what they're going to ask for. Mm-hmm. And so I built this system very much along those lines. Was, okay, when we you're going to get the letter, and the letter is going to say, I need to see this and this and this and this and this. And so we built it that way. But, you can get on different safety programs and they say, oh, here's PDFs of weekly safety meetings. Here's your talking points. Well, we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to burden contractors. So we videoed them all. So all you got to do is hit play, watch it, take a little tests at the end, and then it documents it right in. Hey, everybody watched ladder safety this week, or everybody watched respirator or whatever. And then the trainings as well. OSHA is always going to say, and it's getting more and more like this, you go on a job site, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you said, hey, I'm going to set up patio furniture, it seems like somebody's going to push back and say, what qualifies you to set up patio furniture, right?
Exactly.
And so, yeah. And so these trainings that we put in, we went really comprehensive in them, where they're video trainings, instructor led, and then you take a test and you pass, and then you can get your certificate in there. But at any rate, we just put all this together because we felt it was necessary to have, for our mobile contractors, to have something that they can utilize. And the JHA thing is wonderful because we took the thinking out of the JHA. We know that most hazards are going to repeat on a job site. So we list the hazards out for you. We just ask you to tell us, is it present? Is it not? And then you can always add additional information. And we populate the whole JHA for you. It's a beautiful, professional looking thing.
And you can do that for every job.
Every job.
Every job.
And so
just real quick, I'm sure most people know, but JHA is the so in my old world, it was the jurisdiction having authority, right? So it's actually a job hazard analysis to identify what problems are out there. So just so that everybody knows exactly what that means.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be JSA, job safety analysis, but you get out of the US, they go to JSA. But yeah, so anyway, we just put the program together, and it's I'm biased, but I've seen it work. I've worked it against OSHA mitigations, and I'm just a big believer because I know what we built. So
it's not an ego thing either. It's an experience thing, right? You're saying, I don't want to pat myself on the back, ego and all that kind of stuff. It's an experience thing. So like you get to a point where you have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience on something. It's not patting ourselves on the back that we know all this stuff. We know all this stuff because we've done the research and put in the time, and we've seen these things, we've done these things, and all this stuff happens. My son has told me many times, like, Dad, I don't know how in the world you accomplished that. I mean, I've been thinking about that all day. It's because of experience. That's all it is. So that's just the way it is. Once you start to bring on employees, OSHA standards become law. Over the years, I have seen a lot of guys growing, scaling their business, cutting major concerns, overlooking safety, and putting people at risk all the stinking time.
Yep, all the above. And I'll just address this because I see this all the time in different Facebook groups. And OSHA does indeed govern the employee-employer relationship. So you'll see guys say, well, they don't have any jurisdiction over me because I'm an owner-operator. For the most part, that's true. But what I'll tell you is I don't go out and all over the country and preach safety because I don't want you to get in OSHA trouble. I go out and preach safety because I want you to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And
intact.
So intact. Gravity doesn't care whether you have employees or not, and it doesn't care if you're the owner operator. It works every time. And if you shortcut something, it's going to catch you eventually.
Yeah. So, gravity doesn't care who you voted for. They don't care who you look like. They don't care how nice your hair is or what do you put on deodorant and all that kind of stuff.
And chlorine fumes don't either.
Yeah, exactly. I like this one here. 12-foot stop, drop, and roll. 20-foot no stop and roll. There goes your body. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Back to Mr.
Honestly, if we look back through the years at the pressure washing and probably window cleaning, the most dangerous tool statistically that anyone carries is the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
It's caused more accidents, more, we've had, I know of experiences in our mobile contracting world of paralyzed guys and guys in comas, hitting their head, paralyzed, just all kinds of things. So those ladders, they're dangerous. We take them for granted.
Brian's saying we always called it a JSA, job safety.
Yeah, it can be interchangeable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's one right now that's going around, and I mean, I won't mention the name of the company, but he's advertising in my area right now, and his advertisement, every time I see it, I want to cringe. I understand. I did the same thing, and it's how I sprayed a roof a lot of times. But so he's working alone. That's number one. He's got a water sprinkler on the ground, so it's just. And that's how he's keeping his plants wet and all that kind of stuff. Great. He's got his ladder up, and he's got we call them the bullhorns. The ladder stabilizer goes out. All of that is great. Ladder positioning is great. He's gone up to the top of it. He's got 1 foot on the top rung, 1 foot on the roof, and he's, off spraying and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just going, and that's his advertisement. And I just, every time I feel it, I'm just like, dude, really? That's going to get you. First of all, you're working alone. So if you happen to make that fall and you've got no safety gear on you at all, who knows what's going to happen, right? If you fall and you have a fracture in your neck and you can't even move yourself, you literally sit there and die. Or even if it didn't have to be a deadly situation, or it didn't have to be a situation where you would have been paralyzed for life, it could end up becoming that, all because of that thing, right?
Right.
And so for me, people say, well, I mean, I can't afford to hire a guy. Then you need to take some not just safety training, but you need to take some sales training or something that gets your ticket price up there to be able to afford that other guy. And that should also be part of your sales pitch, kind of a thing.
Yeah. I get asked that all the time, especially, guys suspended over a building or working in a lift. Is 2 people required? And there isn't anywhere in the OSHA guidelines that says it's required, but here's what it does say in the OSHA guidelines. It says that anybody that is working at height, you have to have a rescue plan. So what would be your rescue plan if you're hanging off the side of a building and you're the only one there? So it kind of defaults back. It's like, oh, okay, you got to have 2 guys then, don't you? Because otherwise the rescue plan's not in place. So. Well,
yeah, for me on that, it's my 9mm. I just blow the window out in front of me and go through, right?
Yeah, as long as you're conscious.
As long as you're conscious, yeah, there you go. Andrew Snyder saying it's also mobile, which is very easy for employees to use. Nice to see you, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I'm glad it's working for you, and we try to help as much as we can with any of the contractors that are on there. I think we've got probably 300 or 400 contractors on there now at this point. So it keeps us busy.
We use the CARS report at the steel mill. I'm not exactly positive what the CARS report is.
I'm not either, actually. So I'd love to learn that just to know what they're talking about. Put it in the chat there. I'd love to see that more.
Over the last 2 years, I've started wearing respirator. The first 7, nope, only on roof washing. That's David Rivas again. He only does it on roof washing. Doesn't do it on house washing or building cleaning. And I would, next time I see you, David, I'm going to smack you like that. And you're not allowed to hit me back, because my wife is the reigning world champion Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champ for her age and weight division. And I will sick her on you. That's true. She is. She's the reigning champion. That's awesome. Research is vital. Let's see. Just got the notification. Hope everyone's doing good tonight. We always use a safety man. Even little things, like one of the things that we used to do, if you were everybody carries rags, right, on their truck for cleaning stuff, wiping stuff down. And we use, these big square white rags. Sometimes they're red or orange, but anyhow. So if you're walking along on one of our job sites and you see a rag laying on the ground, well, that would be normal, right? Because rags fall out of pockets. But if it's laid in a perfect square, right, that's our way of communicating to one another that there's an ankle breaker there. An ankle breaker is a hole in the ground that they happen to find. And so they put something down there to prevent somebody. So that little safety aspect of it is very helpful. Just the little things you can think of, because there's nothing you can really do about that little hole that's there, right, at that given moment in time. But there is a way to prevent somebody else from finding that same hole.
Yep, exactly. No, nice point.
Nate's agreeing that 9mm is his preferred method too.
Yeah.
Let's see. Charge accordingly will take care of that problem. Absolutely. Speaking from experience, I think Michael was around when they invented the carburetor. The carabiner. I saw it as carburetor.
Geez, I must be looking rough, man.
Gee, that. I wonder who that is. Gee, I wonder who that is.
Oh,
that's not true, though, is it?
No. I think
you were before the carabiner.
Much longer than me. I did turn 50 this year, but I think the carabiner is a little older than me. So.
Yeah. let's see. I got onto Safety Advocate app this week, and it is deep and intuitive. That's awesome. How much is that app?
Yeah, it's $99 a month, and it gives you. We never charge any more than that. So we're adding stuff all the time. We added 3 new safety classes this week. We added we keep getting asked. We have the major stuff covered, but we keep getting asked because again, when the contractors are getting asked for something, it comes back to us. Hey, do you have blood pathogen training? Do you have ergonomic training? And I call it the fluff safety stuff, but there's a lot of companies that require it. And so
right.
we just released 2 this week. No prices went up. And that's unlimited employees in there. So you can,
that's what I was going to ask, yeah.
and use as many as you want. They can fall off. You can get rid of them, put them back in, whatever. But it's just a one price. And I was a contractor and I get it. We when we started out, we didn't have as much money. And when we got bigger, we had more money, but I wanted to try to price it to where it was somewhat affordable for everyone to get involved in it.
Right.
I genuinely, again, yes, I make money, and yes, this is a business, but at the end of the day, I do care. I mean, I want the contractors to have what they need to be successful out there and to be safe.
Shame on you for putting together a great app at a respectable price. Shame on you. What is your problem? Right?
Yeah. Well,
we all deserve to make something, right?
There are.
All right. So Scott says, my wife says to call them towels, which means that he's taking them from the house, which means that, yeah, and he's probably, he has a doghouse. I can guarantee that. No, I do now. That's good, David.
Yeah, good.
Because I'll pick on you all day, every day to make sure that you do that. Because, it really does boil down to, like exactly what you're saying, just caring about the people that we, are talking to and dealing with. And, sometimes people ask questions or make statements or, these little things that happen online and all that. And they think, well, you're just being an ass. You're just being an ass. And no, it's not. Am I that sunk in on wearing a respirator? Yes, I absolutely am. Because, at the end of the day, I'm 56 years old. I don't need to be, huffing and puffing, and you don't need to be when you get to this age. Okay.
Right.
So I think that's the thing where we come from. Or, I've had fractures in my back. I've had, crushed my legs, and, all these other things and issues and stuff that we've had happen to us over the years. And, if we can help you avoid that, it's genuinely because we care about you and what you're doing. And with Michael, it just happens to be more about the safety side. And with me, it happens to be more on the building washing and helping you do that kind of stuff side. So it very much so is that we care about the people that we're talking to and the people that we're dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty grateful, and I've had a lot of success in these industries, mobile contracting industries, and I had success with my own company, and now as a a consultant and that with the safety. But I genuinely love it. I mean, I love the industry. I try to be at events and and things like that because I just love the industry. And so, yeah, you do get in. I tend to not get much involved in Facebook debates anymore. I get tagged a ton, and I'll just generally go, yeah, But I've just kind of given up on educating Facebook because there's always somebody's trying to get a real answer, and then there's just. Yeah, there's idiots on there. So, and then it's really tough to sort what's real and what's not. So I always tell people, hey, if you got a question, you hit me in text or hit me on Messenger. I'll be happy to answer your question. I'm just not going to get in wild debates on Facebook about stuff.
They get sidetracked so quick there. I recently started doing the LinkedIn thing and connected with Michael on there, and that's one of the things that I've noticed pretty much right off the bat is that it's not you just don't have the drama. Is part of it, and is one of the things, you sit there and you see somebody post in a group, how do I do this? And when they don't get the answer that they're looking for, they go to another group and how do I do this? And it's the same thing. And then if they don't get the answer they want, They go to another group. How do I? And it's always the same thing. So that's why it's important to do that. Michael's solar safety class at Power Clean in Arizona was fun.
Yeah, it's a class that we recently put together because it's really one I'm kind of passionate about too, because I witnessed and watched in the window cleaning industry. The whole push early on was, let's get everybody off ladders and let's put a water-fed pole in their hand. And while, yes, we eliminated a fall hazard, we failed really as an industry to educate everybody on the electrical hazards and electrical concerns of a water-fed pole. Mm-hmm. And then unfortunately, up until this year it's going to outpace, unfortunately, but up until this year, we were losing 2 to 3 window cleaners a year on electrical strikes from water-fed poles, just people not figuring out their drop zones, they were whatever the case. And so, I jumped in several years ago and was really trying to, be passionate about that and educate on these water-fed poles. Well, solar has a very unique safety problem, and that is that under any other electrical safety, they will work under the guise, except under troubleshooting, they're going to work under the guise of lockout tagout regulations. Mm-hmm. Well, that doesn't happen with solar. And when you're cleaning solar, it's always going to be on. There isn't a way, unless you're going to clean them in the dark. But if the sun is hitting them, if the sun is out, those panels are live. Now, in a perfect scenario, those panels, everything is insulated and there's not going to be an issue. But poor installation on the connectors could cause an issue. Also, what we're seeing more and more is wildlife is causing issues. So birds are getting up underneath, they're making nests, they peck at the wires, and they can cause shorting, or they can cause arcing from the wires that are going into the framework.
Or just exposing the wire.
Yes.
Which now your water makes the connection.
So now you throw a water-fed pole up there, and we know that carbon fiber conducts electricity because we've seen it kill people, and so now we get the shock factor, and again you get all this BS going on social media. Oh, it's DC current, it can't shock you. Absolutely can shock you. And DC current, do a little research on DC current. DC current actually is worse than AC current. So I'm just really passionate about this one. I'm trying to get ahead. The industry I do fully believe that there will be a solar cleaning industry that emerges.
Right.
And I don't know if it'll be cleaning and O&M, especially on some of these utility scale farms and stuff like that. But I'm just trying to get out ahead. We haven't had, there's been a few little minor accidents we've heard about in the installation phases. But so far as cleaning, there hasn't been any major accidents yet. And I want to keep that going. I want to I want to try to keep awareness out there. Get your gloves on, and the thing is with, we teach in the commercial side of it, we teach, well, you might want to test the framework, just to kind of see what you're dealing with. And that's fine you get up on a flat roof and you can do some testing. But a lot of guys with residential, what they're doing is they're negating and saying, you know what, I don't want to deal with falls, so I'm not going to get on the roof at all. I'm just going to use my water-fed pole from the ground. Well, there's no inspection that took place. You don't know if it's live or not. I mean, the panels are live, but you don't know if there's any shorts or anything. So, and again, people are going to laugh and people are going to say, oh, it's stupid. But we're just really saying, get your rubber gloves on, make sure your base section of your water-fed pole is insulated, wear your dielectric boots so that if something is going wrong up there, if something is, the stuff that you can't see, you're safe and you're protected. You've mitigated the hazard the best you can. So, I'm really passionate about the solar just because I want to cut off all of the, the potential for hazards and really get some education on it. We did the one at the PWNA, and I'm doing 3 more in the next, by the end of this month, I'll have done 3 more. We're doing one at Tucker, we're doing one at Jay Racenstein, and we're doing one at Window Magic Supply. And this just tells you how passionate about it. We're doing for free. I'm traveling at my expense. to help educate contractors that, hey, there's an issue here, and let's just get ahead of it. Let's think about it. Let's look at the hazards and let's mitigate them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you said a lot of stuff I didn't realize about solar. I haven't dug that deep into solar either, but I mean, there's a lot more to think about than I even realized. You know, as you sit there and you're going, okay, because even though it's not a new industry, it is a new industry. That's kind of where I'm going with the whole drone world right now, trying to, help make it bigger, better, faster, safer, all those kinds of things, and figure out what's real, what's not real, and what's going to help out everybody and make money at the same time. So I think it's all going to be a good thing, and that all that stuff is important. And so this is going to be David Rivas again, and he said it really hit me with Richard and what he's talking about. I don't know if you know this or not. So Richard Sheehan Jr. Is out of Mississippi, Biloxi, Mississippi area, and we had him on here as a guest because he has cancer, and the doctor, had asked him what it was that he did for a living, because and I don't remember what the cancer is. If Richard's on here, he'd be able to tell us, but it's a very rare form of cancer. And when he told the doctor what he did, the doctor's like, I can't say for certain that that's where it came from, but that's where it came from. Not wearing your respirator, you were just more susceptible. And because this rare form of cancer that's where it would kind of come from, something like that. So, and that, having him on here, and I'm glad to see David is now wearing his respirator all the time, because those things, man, I guess that's probably, if you can't tell, I get fired up over respirators, because that's my pet peeve. It's so stinking easy to deal with, yet so many guys don't do it,
Yeah, no, I agree.
And David just hit 46.
All right.
So he's still, he's what, a teenager now?
Yeah, still young.
Yeah. Saw that yesterday. Guy hit 4 different groups. I was asked, you haven't got the answers you were looking for. In the first 2 groups, no response. Yeah, it happens all the time. Let's see. Robot drone solar farm cleaners.
Yep. So I do think on your farms and even commercial industrial type platforms, I think the robots are the way probably to go. You can clean. They're making improvements in them. They're coming along. I'm personally wanting to see a little better technology on edge detection, just because there's sometimes that these slope down and you could potentially run one off. And, a lot of the operators will say, well, only if you're an idiot. Yeah, but the potential's there, so we'd have to set up drop zones and things like that. But some of the robots that are out there, I mean, I do see the value in them. And the drones, I'm going to go back to Windows because I was at the solar show out in Vegas here a month or so ago. And, they have these, one company was there, had these basically automatic sprinklers that would come on. Mm-hmm. Right. And so again, though, water alone doesn't agitate the surface. And so it depends on the pitch, right? If you can wet them and run stuff off, but a lot of them aren't at that pitch. And so you're going to have some oxidation buildup on those, especially with the metal framework and things like that. And so I agree. If you could set them up on some sort of maintenance, mm-hmm. But the deal with solar is that they're not going to clean until they've seen basically a kilowatt decrease. Drop. And so, on these farms, you're maybe going to talk once a year. So there is going to be some buildup over time without agitation. So that's why the robots probably are the best, because they're going to use that DI water, RO water, but they're going to use a rotary brush on it as well. And if you've ever seen some of the before and afters of that cleaning process, it's pretty impressive. I mean,
some of those are.
It's legit. So
my thing on the drones is that I don't think they're going to end up being ideal for solar farms for a different reason, though. So I do feel like maybe over time there will be a good development in soaps or something that will help make the windows so much better, and then a drone can apply it and rinse it off, and that might eventually come about. Okay. But when you sit there and you look at solar farms, the way a solar farm typically is you've just got row after row after row after row. Okay. So if your drone's going to have to be tethered, it's going to have a hose attached to it, which now has to try to drag across each of these, panels. So getting 5 or 6 deep, maybe sure you can go down a little ways and then fly over 2 sides, and the time frame wise, I just don't know that they'll ever get there with that. Now I could, and because like you're saying, the angle of attack is generally not really heavily sloped even. Right. So like windows, I mean, they're flat. They're, so with them, I can see that a little bit better, where if you do a traditional window cleaning or the products get good enough, which I think some of them are. Andrew's on here. Andrew's got a great Agent Halt works really well for that as well, where it can actually just kind of make those windows shine and make them better than just acceptable, right? Mm-hmm. So I do think the drones will be good for that, especially in the higher rise. But one of the things that people don't think about on that side of it is, you get up 400 feet, you can't see that anyhow. You can't see what you're doing up that high. So you have to have another something else that, like if you attached it, let's just argue a GoPro to it, right? And now that GoPro is feeding to a monitor that you have attached to your controller. Well, now you're trying to watch that, and there's other factors that now start coming into play. Plus, I mean, if it's so high up, the weight factor, there's all these other factors that are going to come into play that I think they'll be good for it. I don't think for any aspect, I don't think they'll be the end all be all. The same way I don't think traditional window cleaning is an end all be all. The same way I don't think, water fed pole cleaning is an end all be all.
Yeah, I agree with you. And we've kind of been, I guess, more on the negative side of drones, but I just want to clarify. I do think they play a place.
Oh, yeah.
And the, we had, when I had my company here in Central Illinois, we had invested in one of the automated window cleaners that went up and down on the tether. Mm-hmm. And I would talk to a lot of people, and they're like, well, it won't work on this, and it won't work on this, and it won't work on this. You're right. It won't work on any of that. Mm-hmm. I don't care what it won't work on. I'm going to care about what it does, what it will. Yep. Right. And I think that's the same way with the drones. It's a tool, right? And figure out what it will work on, and then go own it. I mean, there's so many. I mean, in Florida is one place where they like to build with the little fancy architecture up top, and it's hard to get off of the building in order to soft wash it. There's some beautiful applications for drones, and you could make so much money because there's no other way to do it. The black just layers up on a top crown or whatever, and the building owners hate it, but they can't do anything about it. Well, you can with a drone. Yeah. And so they have a place. There's no doubt about it. And I agree with you. Anybody that's been around the cleaning industry knows what, when I say the cleaning pie, basically you have heat, agitation, and chemical. And if you decrease one, you increase the other. So if a good chemical was to come out, even with the windows, where you could hit that, you could chemically agitate it and then hit it with the drone. Yeah, I'm not saying it wouldn't work for anything. I'm just saying I've seen oxidation build up really fast on buildings, especially commercial buildings that are Lucabon panels, or even concrete structure where you have concrete runoff. And I'm just telling you, you're going to have to agitate.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, but anyway, they play a place. They don't
absolutely. Yeah. Joe is saying not all drones fly. That's correct. Some of them go underwater. Some of them go on the ground. Some of them are all kinds. There's all kinds of drones around us, and we don't even realize it, kind of a thing. But and my take on it, I mean, I think there's going to be. I think I got a call coming. I know who it is too, and he either knows or he's messing with me. I'm not really sure. So, do you hear that by chance?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay, good. You guys don't hear it, then it doesn't matter. Yeah. Now it's going on both of them. Yeah. Anyhow, it was driving me crazy. There you go. All right, let's see. The next one. Scott Davidson says EBC Glide is a possible chemical only clean for windows. Yeah. And actually, Carlos had sent some to McGowan Pressure Washing up in I think it's Virginia, and they tried some. They were using a different product, and they really liked the EBC Glide. So I do think that it's one of those products that will do a very, very good job in our industry. And if there's any changes that can be made, chemically at the atom level or the whatever, so it can just grab that stuff and grab hold of it and be rinsed off. It's kind of the same way. I guess the way I look at it too is I think a chemical may eventually come about. The reason I say that is because it's the same thing with mechanical bonds or static bonds to things that are now being able to be released and all that. Originally back, oxidation is a great example where the only way you were getting it off is with scrubbing it. And now they've got some better chemicals out there that you can apply and rinse off. I think most of the time you still need to brush, but nonetheless, chemicals do get better and help along that path, so to speak. So, and I think we'll get there a little bit better with Windows, but it won't be all the way just like it never was.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And we had problems even with water-fed poles, even with agitation at times on certain commercial structures, and that we had to soap. And we would pre-soap with Glass Clean 4 or 3 first, and then hit that with DI, and we could get some successful results. But if we didn't, it wouldn't work. So there's all kinds of methods.
So Michael J is saying creeping drone bots with articulating scrubbing capabilities. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And back to David Rivas saying Glide is fire. So, Michael, we've taken up just about an hour of your time, and I really, really appreciate it. But before we go, I want to say, throw a couple prayers out to Jacob Deal. He has been dealing with some things and gone through a little bit of surgery and all that kind of fun stuff, but hoping he gets better soon. And then, thoughts and prayers are still with Aaron Ritchie's family because, his accident was just a very freak thing as well. So, just thinking about those people here lately, and hope that everything works out for everybody as best as it can. But Michael, I appreciate you very much. Hang out here for a minute, and
all right. Sounds good,
guys. We'll see you next week. I don't have it in front of me, but I think Pat Clark might be next week. I can't remember, but anyhow, peace out. We'll see y'all.